Hello and welcome to another fun-filled nonsense retrospective. Well, also a review of retrospectives and a retrospective of reviews. I'm your host as always, Rick. Joining me equally as always is Devon.
Hello, although I would have worded it as the nonsense review reward show, but we want to keep it as a retro because we're weird.
It's a retrospective of reviews, a review of retrospectives, a award show. There's a couple of stinkers, and it's basically a big old extension of our usual final three to a degree, but extended into a big old show of this year on Nonsense Review. We are going to do a couple of honourable mentions talking about the first year, which wasn't a full-on year, but we're mostly keeping it to this year only. But before we get too far into that, we normally start with an asinine hypothetical, but we're not really going to do that today because we're going to be talking about hypotheticals we've already done. What I will mention is that this is going to be the last nonsense retrospective of the year. We will see you again next year with the first of the new.
Yeah, we haven't decided what it is yet, so you're like, oh, I better shut up because I don't know what the fuck we're doing. Don't make promises we can't keep.
I know what I want it to be. I know what you want it to be. And I'm pretty sure we've got enough time to make it happen. But yeah, I think we're going to get straight into it. So, with all that said, number one, what was the favourite hypothetical you gave me?
My favourite hypothetical I gave you was it was a very simple one, slightly generic, but I think we had a bit of fun with it. You have to create a fantasy adventuring party to accompany you on a quest. I used as an example to slay a dragon because you got all whimsical with it like a twat.
Yep.
And the party had to consist of a warrior, a wizard, and a rogue.
Yeah, I think I had a Gandalf.
Yeah, you ummed and ahed for a solid minute and a half over whether you wanted Gandalf the Right or Gandalf the Grey.
Yeah, I think we ended up with Gandalf the Grey because even though he might be less powerful, he's a lot more fun.
Yeah.
What else did I pick? Like Darth Vader?
No, I very specifically said you can't have Darth Vader. It has to be fantasy. Because Darth Vader is cheating in every instance.
Yeah, I forgot what else I picked for that. But yeah, I generally liked the assemble a party questions because, you could ask me the same question a week later and I'd probably give you a different answer because it's mostly based on mood at the time. But they normally tend to be pretty fun. Like, maybe every week it might grate a bit, but it was generally a very good question to have.
Case in point, what I should say is you really hit the nail on the head because it really is the most fun type of question.
Yeah, because it lets you just call on your knowledge of other media, just remember fond characters fondly, and just it gives you just write a very short fan fiction in your head and go, oh yeah, that'd go well.
It's also that the general type of question that we're on about can be as specific or broad as you like. Like the most recent example would be the Fire Emblem Fates retro, where the question was pick a lord, pick a warrior, pick a mage, boom.
Yeah.
But specifically from Fire Emblem, so you know it narrows it down while also you could broaden it up if you wanted.
Yeah, you can even make it as daft broad as the mobile game, which is barely canon at all. It's like not really canon at all, but it's got enough characters now to be its own game.
I suppose the OC roster's pretty big now, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Like, there's a mini roster for every year.
Okay.
I think you'd really like the Jotunheimer princesses.
Yeah, maybe, but the game's crap.
It kind of is.
If the game wasn't crap, I'd still be playing it.
Oh, totally. The watered-down Fire Emblem was fun for a short amount of time, and then not.
The problem with a gacha game that instantly has PvP, you get really rewarding rewards, shall I say, from participating in PvP. But by the time I got invested in PvP, everybody had already built their Death Stars.
Yes, yeah, it got worse. Fallen Edelgard is still a difficult thing to deal with to this day, and she's like 3 years old at this point.
And with that tangent out the way, Rick, what about you? What was your favourite hypothetical that you gave me?
Based entirely on the fact of how joyous you were to receive it. It was the one where you were the dictator or cult leader of a small island nation.
I guess I was a bit happy to get that question because I think my immediate response was, Rick, I've thought about this. Because you were worried, if I recall, of giving it to me because you thought I wouldn't have had enough prep time. But it's all in the back of my head from the countless sleepless nights I've had going, how would I fix these issues?
Yeah, the small island nation was the big one. The cult leader, you ended up picking a sex cult, didn't you? Where over 21s only.
Well, my logic was literally that if you're going to be in charge of a cult, like, you're already evil, so you might as well have fun, as long as everyone knows what they're signing up for.
Yeah. As long as it's not a murder cult, you're all fine and good.
I mean, murder cults can be fun in their own ways. All you have to do is be one of those murder cults that specifically targets a certain type of people, like only Nazis or only paedophiles. I think those murder cults are fine.
Yeah. As long as you can correctly identify your target.
That's the key piece of information, because a lot of people are all really, like, everyone's always for harsh punishment on certain types of people, and I tend to agree. However, the amount of injustices that have occurred throughout history from people manipulating information, or even just people fucking up and not looking at the information correctly, makes me really hesitant for harsh punishments, just in case you make a mistake. Because if you make one mistake when it comes to someone, potentially an innocent person's life, that's one too many.
Yeah, it's one of those. It's the big argument against death penalty is that even a guilty verdict has the slight possibility of being overturned by new evidence.
That's the problem, man. That's the problem. Like, you got to be 100% sure. And there's some crimes where it's like, that's 100% definitely that person. Like Ted Bundy and Jeffrey Dahmer. There's no ifs, ands, or buts that those people did terrible things to a lot of people.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
But, it's such a slippery slope, as it were. America's also fucked up with how they handle the death penalty, but that's a conversation for a different podcast, which is going to be less cheerful than hopefully the rest of this one.
Did you know that the only legal method of killing a prisoner is a lethal injection that no drug company wants to be known for making?
What do you mean?
So they came to the idea of the death by lethal injection rather than the electric chair quite a while ago, like in the 70s, and no drug company has put in research and development into developing a better, safer, and more accurate lethal injection. So you can survive a lethal injection and be in an incredible pain the entire time.
Okay. Remember when I just gave us a perfect segue to get away off this grim topic?
Yeah, sorry, my bad. I was just...
Yeah, very fascinating, thank you. If we want to be humane, the actual most humane place as far as executing prisoners goes is technically China, because it's a bullet in the head.
Yeah.
But it's also fucked up, because if I recall correctly, they charged the family of the deceased for the bullet.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, how much can one bullet be? But,
it's China.
Also, by the same token, well, like one light bulb in the military is like 58 quid because of the amount of red tape that you need to go through to requisition one.
It's one of those as well. You can't have that method in I don't want to say civilized, because that sounds a bit awful, but at the same time, civilized country, because who the fuck wants to be the person who has to do that?
Yeah. A free country.
Free country is a better way of putting it.
Yeah. Okay, so the next question, in the same vein, the favourite hypothetical you received.
Well, similarly to the one that I gave, it's the pretty much exact same question, except you asked me to create a space crew. We settled on 3 members because 1, Darth Vader's OP, and 2, it was like, well, if I have to outfit an entire ship, that's like 20 plus people. I don't know if you remember who I picked outside of Darth Vader, Rick.
I don't.
I had Jack from Mass Effect, and I had Q from Star Trek.
Okay. Yeah, Q can basically control anything. He just needs to be in the right mood.
Yeah, I know I said Darth Vader's OP, but then also here's Q.
Yep. Man, if you're going to keep Darth Vader in line, having a comedy character is a way to do it. Like, I know you said you don't like gag characters in comics.
No, I don't like... Okay. I don't like it when a gag character appears in a serious thing, because the gag character is always going to be OP bullshit. But it's fine if they're limited to their own comic book, because their comic books don't matter outside of their comic books.
Yeah, like a gag character in a gag series is exactly where they need to be. A gag character in a serious series sometimes derails things.
I mean, case in point, whenever Deadpool gets dragged into a series that's not his own, it's usually Spider-Man, and Spider-Man's pretty goofy anyway.
Yeah.
But when Deadpool's roped into a serious overarching storyline, he's nerfed as fuck. Because he can't be his usual level of bullshit, because then he can solve literally any problem.
Yeah, because he can just regenerate from nothing.
Well, not nothing, but yeah.
Not nothing, but almost nothing. Like, as long as like his head's intact, he's fine.
Yeah, and people like to cut that off, so...
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm going to throw the question at you again, Rick. Fave hypothetical you received from me.
I'm going to say, well, almost any question question where I shout bastard because I had the same question for you, but the one I'll pick out for this one is the Marvel movie or show based on a character that's not been created yet. A character that's been created, but a show that hasn't.
To be fair, that was the lowest of low-hanging fruit for that retrospective to ask as a question.
Yeah, I think we were running a bit on empty on that retro because, Ms. Marvel was fine, but it was only fine.
Well, the problem is I could say that about most of the TV shows. Like, my top 3 are my top 3 because I remember them. And that's She-Hulk, that's Moon Knight, and that's Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Not Hawkeye.
I liked Hawkeye, don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying the top 3 are the top 3 because I would happily sit through them again. Hawkeye's fine, don't get me wrong. I probably wouldn't choose to watch it again because it feels like a very Christmassy story, because it is.
Oh, definitely. I probably have the same top 3, except I put Hawkeye instead of Moon Knight.
That's fair.
Just because it flowed better week to week, whereas Moon Knight, you kind of had to put in a bit more brain work, But yeah, my one was the Marvel movie show that was with a character that may have been introduced already, but definitely one that didn't have a show. The next one we have is, which episode led to you binging the series that you enjoyed the most?
See, the reason why I threw this question in is because I couldn't help but realise there's a lot of shows that we just straight up went, I'm fucking watching this as soon as the podcast is over.
Yeah.
For the longest time, this would have been Q-Force. However, it's been recently dethroned because Dragon Age Absolution, oh my god.
Yeah.
That was such a fun watch. Easy watch.
Yep. Hopefully spoilers for the next retrospective. I'm still to watch it, just because I've had people to deal with over the past few days.
You need to wear your watch the first episode.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Because they do tell you every single character's name. It's just, we were talking.
Yeah, I remember Quidian because I noted it down because she was fun personified.
Yeah.
And when I was talking about it with another person who has watched it, he said, "Oh yes, I thought you might like that character. A bit zany, but also with the underlying power to back it up."
Yeah. Mages are fun. But yeah, what about you? Which episode has led to you binging the series that you enjoyed the most?
On a technicality,
that's never a good way to start a question.
It was Amphibia with an asterisk. The episode was recorded outside of the year, but released within it. But for things that we recorded during the year, it had to be between Q-Force, Paranormal Park, and Inside Job. I'm giving it to Q-Force. The other ones are still ongoing. I would love to see them show up in the retrospective review as something with an award. The fact that Q-Force has ended it was non-consensually ended.
Wait, is Q-Force not getting renewed?
No, doesn't look like it.
I thought it was going to get renewed. Oh well.
Yeah, we hope that it was. And it seems that it's one of the ones that's been cut by the Netflix snip.
Well, yeah, it's one of those weird ones, isn't it? Because we keep bitching about Netflix axing their animation department, and yet we haven't really felt it yet, because they're still releasing animations.
Yes, they are. And they're still releasing sequel animations quite a lot of the time, like both Inside Job and Paranormal Park. Since we've done the initial episode 1s, they've released season 2s, and I've watched both of them, and they were both fun.
Yeah, fair.
So, yeah, I'm giving it to Q-Force partly because it's true, and also because I would hate to not give Q-Force an award.
That's fair.
The next one is the favourite live-action show that we reviewed.
Now, I think we need to clarify something right now, because we've used the term favourite a few times now. We are making a distinction between favourite and best for the sake of our questions. Okay. Well, I don't know. You've got the list of questions in front of you, right, Rick?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Yeah, you can see that they're split between favourite and best, and some of them are the same question, but different between, the difference being the word favourite and the word best. So I just thought I'd clarify for the audience, because they'll be like, hang on, when we get to best XYZ, they'll be like, hang on, they already told us their favourite so-and-so. What's the deal? So I thought maybe now would be a good opportunity to clarify.
Yeah, my interpretation is best was the episode that we felt best about during and after making it, as a gestalt of the episode itself and how we were able to riff off it, Okay.
Right, well, I interpreted it as favourite was favourite to record, best was which one do you think actually was the best episode. But hey, we can have different parameters, I suppose. In an ideal world, we'd have a big enough fan base that we could just put a poll out for these questions.
Yeah, totally.
Instead, it's between the two hosts, and we're going to be biased. Speaking of biased, my my favourite live-action show we reviewed was actually a movie. It was Attack of the Monsters, aka Gamera vs. Giron, which, of course, it was. Yeah. I pushed so hard for it.
And including the kid that turned bald halfway through.
Yeah, we don't need to talk about that. It was fun. I like kaiju movies. In fact, one of the ways I tried to strong-arm you into watching it, which I didn't really need to do because you were just game anyway, was, it's my birthday, Rick. Could we please record something fun?
We're skipping my birthday.
Well, we kind of have to because yours is pretty much on Christmas week.
Yes. If we record on my birthday, then we're having a bad time.
That's valid. But yeah, that was my favourite live-action show to review. It was just nonsensical fun, which, fits the theme of the shows. But what about
the number of times we saw something daft happening and I just went, what the fuck?
It's just like, that's basically old school Godzilla in a nutshell, is like, this is dumb, I love it.
Yeah. Good old kaiju movies.
Yeah. But what about you? What was your favourite live-action? I could burn the word fave and live, that's what happened. Favourite live-action show we reviewed, Rick?
Well, 5 is topical because it was the Empire Strikes Back, but if you have to make it not movies that everyone's watched and everyone enjoyed, I gave it to Firefly because that was something that I'd never seen before. I knew it was good, just anecdotally, and now I've gotten to experience it. I probably have to watch it again on my own just to be able to catch things that I didn't while riffing off with you. But generally, it was a good introductory episode, a very strong first impression of a series.
It's one of those where I'm kind of disappointed that this isn't one of the shows you decided to binge.
Yeah, it's one of those, it went on the rainy day list.
The infamous rainy day list that even during a 2-year pandemic, you didn't use.
Yeah, I didn't clear the rainy day list.
You didn't touch the fucking rainy day list.
I touched a bit of it.
Oh, I don't believe you, sir.
Because one of the things that I did touch during the pandemic is my answer to the next question. The next question being the favourite animation that we reviewed.
This one was an easy answer. It was the Helluva Boss pilot.
Ditto.
Oh, yep. Cool. Awesome.
Yep. So, yeah, we share answers on this. Hell of a Boss being the favourite animation that we reviewed. The thing that made it disqualified from episode that led me to binge was because I was watching it as it was coming out after maybe episode 2 or 3.
Well,
that's when I jumped in.
Like, we recorded this as a rainy day episode, and we ended up releasing it when it was hot as fuck over the summer. It was like 40-degree weather, and we both agreed we are not fucking recording in 40-degree weather.
Yeah.
Because behind the scenes, and I think we mentioned this at one point in another episode, when we record, I live next to a train station, so I have to have the window shut if I'm recording, otherwise you'll hear a train every 2 minutes.
And when it's hot, you have to have the window open, otherwise you cook because it's literally an oven.
Yeah, and also we were using laptops, or in your case a PC, to record. They run hot. The hotter they run, the hotter the room gets. It all adds up. And also no fan, because if I had the fan on, you would hear it.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
But it did give us a great title, because the title of the episode ended up being It's Hot as Hell, so here's Helluva Boss.
Yep. Wasn't the Hell of a Boss retrospective something like we don't have to explain taps?
No, that was the, I think that was the actual debut of season 2.
Right, yeah.
Because our retrospectives just have the title of the show we're retroing.
Yeah, in such a short period of time, we ended up with 3 Hell of a Boss episodes, the pilot, the retro, and the season 2 premiere.
Yeah, and we had this really weird scenario where Sod's Law, just because of how we did it, the retro for Helluva Boss came out before the pilot did.
Yeah, it did.
In fact, you even made reference to our Helluva Boss pilot episode that we reviewed, and I did the thing I like to do, which is Rick, that's not come out yet. Shut up.
Yeah, the good old yep.
Now, I remember this has always been a point of contest between us, in that we both say Helluva Boss differently.
Yeah, I say Hell of a Boss.
And I say Helluva. Now, Rick says Hell of a Boss because he believes that it's a pun. And it is. I say Helluva Boss because there's a wrestler called Sami Zayn, and his finishing move is called the Helluva Kick, and it's spelt the same way.
Yeah.
Also, I think...
Go on. I was going to say, it does look like it could be the name of a cheese.
You can't eat halloumi. Wait, what? No, you can't. Helluva's not halloumi, is what I was trying to say, and instead I said a completely different sentence and made myself seem a bit dumb. You can't eat halloumi. It's my halloumi. Oh, fucking hell.
Oh, little tangent. I remember I was introduced to halloumi by an autistic person that I used to know, and he loved cheesy chips, but he didn't like melted cheese to collect at the bottom of his bowl of cheesy chips. So he introduced me to halloumi, the cheese that grills and does not melt.
That I can listen. All right, that's crazy. The thing that he initially started with, but I get it.
Yeah, totally. Like, older people love putting things on their roast dinners, for instance. So my folks love their cauliflower cheese. They love putting jam on their meat, and I think neither of those mix well with gravy. I don't think cheese mixes with gravy. I don't think jam mixes well with gravy.
I've never thought to try it.
That generation just loves it.
Well, that's the generation that's like, tripe.
Yeah. Not quite. The generation before was the one that loved tripe. My grandma even enjoyed green tripe, which is unwashed tripe. Yep. And we were encouraged very strongly to try tongue sandwiches, for instance, because A, it was good tongue, as so it was called, and B, it had been bought, so shut up and eat it.
Yeah, okay, but being from a poor family, I can understand the shut up and eat it part. Rick, for the benefit of our audience that may or may not be British, which seems to be most of it according to the statistics, what is tripe?
As far as I'm aware, it's cow intestines.
I thought it was sheep intestines, but go on.
Okay, might be sheep as well. But yeah, generally it's intestines.
Rick, that might be a Welsh thing, to be fair.
Okay. Yeah, it's intestines. And if it's green, it's unwashed. If it's white, as it normally is, it's basically just been essentially bleached and sold. And it's just this goop, not even goopy, it's like this leathery mass that you boil for a month.
Ugh.
And yeah, like my favourite way of consuming intestines is as a sausage casing.
Yeah, I keep
because it's the thing that cooks the most.
There's a girl at work who I keep grossing out because not in a weird way. Whenever sausages get reduced, she always says, "Oh, do you want some sausages? They're cheap," because she knows I love me sausage. And I'm just like, "Oh yeah, arse and hooves, that's what I like." And she's always like, "That's fucking disgusting." I'm like, "Okay, but that's what it is."
An intestine meat balloon.
Yeah. Now that sounds like a joke from that would be in Haluva Boss.
Yeah, like an animal balloon animal.
Ugh.
Oh, stupid. I love the joke of a balloon animal snake just being the balloon.
Yeah. Although I do prefer the more technical gag of I can't do a horse with legs, so here's a horse that's had its legs cut off because diabetes. Good old Blitzo.
The next one, the best hypothetical question, separate to favourite that we gave or received.
Yeah, okay. My answer is a pretty recent answer, truth be told, and I may butcher the exact wording, so apologies on that. But I think the best hypothetical question given was, there's a manga that exists, Rick, as you told me, where someone basically got isekai'd into Dragon Ball universe as inside the body of Yamcha.
Yes.
What side character would you do this with? My answer ended up, of course, being Minata, because don't be an awful pervert rapist, and then, you actually got a pretty decent life for yourself.
Yeah, you do.
Even if you do look like a grotesque balloon boy.
Yeah, with his circles on his head, which turn out to just be his hair. Like, he's not a very good designed character. Like, he's gross looking, but, I think make him smiley and helpful, and all of a sudden you've got a normal, nice guy with dwarfism. I
think he's intentionally made to look a bit gross, because if he looked even remotely attractive, then some of his behaviour would be excused immediately.
Yes, and that's a terrible commentary on the world, and yet also true.
I mean, look at the go-to example I like to point to, because young girls always swoon over him. Professor Snape in Harry Potter is an awful human being, but he's played by Alan Rickman in the movies, so... Yep.
An attractive older man. The other one that I'd point to is Chris Brown, who is a literal physical abuser who punched Rihanna until she was bruised, and yet all of his fans think he's still wonderful because, he's still good looking and he still makes music.
I'll be absolutely honest with you, Rick. I genuinely thought Chris Brown had fallen off the edge of the earth.
Well, he might as well have done.
Well, I've never heard any story about him since, and I was like, cool, good riddance to bad rubbish, because you're really understating things by saying that he bruised up Rihanna. He fucking smashed her face in.
Yeah. Didn't she need to go to hospital?
It was ridiculous, I'll put it that way. It's one of those other examples of I believe he just paid a fine.
Yeah, by bruised, I mean actually beaten black and blue.
It's it was despicable. I don't know how spousal and domestic abuse is bullshit anyway, but to that level, I don't know how you can possibly excuse it.
Yeah.
On that fun note, what about you, Rick? What was your best hypothetical question, either received or given?
I liked the drunken necromancer's camping trip. It didn't have to be a necromancer's one, but all the answers I gave were people who had passed away.
Oh, yeah.
So it was Freddie Mercury, Robin Williams, and the one that sparked the most conversation, Marie Antoinette.
Yeah, because that was such a weird one.
Yeah. And yet, because of the amount of conversation it sparked, I think that made it a very good question and answer. Although we did have honourable mentions from Steve Irwin, who you pretty quickly convinced me to turn away from, and Dolly Parton, who was the only living member of the group. Absolute saint.
Yeah, I think it's really odd how often Dolly Parton comes up on the podcast, and every single time we end with the same thing, and that is Dolly Parton is basically a living saint.
Yeah.
She is Saint Celestine.
Yeah, Celestine, the living saint, yeah.
I mean, shit, they're making a Warhammer thing on Amazon, maybe.
Yeah.
I'd fucking petition for it.
Just ask Henry Cavill to just invite Dolly Parton.
But I can imagine Dolly Parton agreeing, doing the bit, and having no idea what the fuck is going on, but smiling all the same.
Yeah. Now we get into the best non-stop review. These are all Stevens.
They are, so far.
Yeah,
we've got a string of questions at the moment, which is basically best of what of XYZ show. Because believe it or not, guys, we have 3 different shows. But yes, as for the question, I don't know if it was the best one to listen to or the best produced, but it was my favourite, and I'm kind of rolling it into as best because the Stevens they're all the same formula-wise, you know what I mean?
Yeah, Steven discovers something, he realises and actually somebody cries, normally Steven, and then there's a resolution.
I meant our formula, not Steven's formula.
Oh yeah.
Out of all of our shows, the non-stop review is literally we watch the thing, we discuss the thing, and then we fuck off because it's a short format. So
yeah, and we add to the board for this year.
Yeah. But yeah, that being said, I think the best non-stop review was episode 35, Mr. Greg.
Okay, yeah, that was a strong one. It actually dealt with some themes of loss, but also gave us a banging song.
Yeah, but the reason why I point to it is because it's one of the episodes that got me mildly interested in Steven Universe, because weirdly it's one of the ones I saw in the wild.
Yeah.
And without any context, it was a good episode. And after watching it for the for the non-stop, I then had the context and it only got better because,
yes,
honestly, the nature of Pearl and Greg's relationship in that, they're amicable, shall we say. It grows a bit beyond that by the end. Isn't very well established anyway, because we've got 2 flashback episodes before this?
Yeah, because before this we've had, turns out, intentionally not very much of Greg, because the gems are actively trying to exclude him from Steven's life.
But now he's a millionaire, so...
Yeah. Now he can provide the human portion of Steven's life without the compromise that is... He's not a deadbeat dad, he's the opposite.
No, he's not a deadbeat dad, he's a poor dad.
Yeah, he's a poor single dad.
Yeah.
Who happens to share custody with a bunch of gay space rocks.
Yeah, lesbian aunts. But yeah, what about you, Rick? What was in your opinion, the best non-stop review?
I disqualified Bismuth because I thought it was cheating, because it was pretty much the highlight of that season. The one that I actually picked was Hit the Diamond. It's possibly my favourite Steven episode ever.
It's very fluffy and fun.
Yeah, it's the perfect balance of gem stuff and goofy shit, because it was gems doing the goofy shit themselves. And it had pretty much all the characters we cared about, including Ruby and Sapphire, because Garnet split up for that episode. And I think we riffed on it pretty well.
I mean, I distinctly remember my favourite moment from that was literally was it my favourite moment or your favourite moment? I enjoyed the fact that throughout the episode, Ruby, while going undercover as a Ruby, was constantly flirting with Sapphire.
Yeah.
I also didn't see the ending coming of the season with the Ruby incident. So
yeah, it was a great setup in that you didn't expect anything to come of it, and obviously it did. They came back all angry. We went to Neptune. There was no one there.
It's so weird because the Rubies were pretty much the entire time watching them goofy and fun. It was really adorable seeing more than one of them blush at fake Jasper. But then you got to the final episode where the episode was literally just Steven and the boss Ruby in a bubble, and it ended so poorly.
Yes, it did. And this is the same Ruby that just turned and said thank you when they were given the fake tip during this episode.
I didn't even clock that, to be honest.
Yeah. But yeah, the next one is the best nonsense retrospective.
I had to and R over this one, Rick, because we've done a few this year.
Yeah.
I think I settled on a very fair result. I forgot to note down the episode number, so apologies for that. But I think
I've also forgotten episode numbers on all of these. But
I think the best nonsense retrospective that we did this year was Amphibia Season 3.
Okay, yeah, because it was the one that actually had the ending of Amphibia referenced and discussed. Yeah, it's a pretty good one.
Yeah, it was also a long one.
Yes,
I think
it's one of the benefits of switching from edited to long form like we're doing now.
Yeah, pretty much, man. It's one of those where you can tell a lot by how interested we are in, one, the source material, and two, how much of said source material exists by the length of an episode. This one was well over 2 hours.
Yes, it might have been our longest one to date.
I don't think it was. I think the Owl House might have beaten it lengthwise just. But hey, it is what it is. But yeah, I enjoyed recording it because, honestly, I think this one got delayed like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Because it was like, Rick, we need to do the Amphibia retro, and it's like, cool, I need to do this on that day, and it's like, fuck.
Oh, yes.
So it's like, I think we were filling time with stuff that wouldn't be as intensive.
Yeah, things that we didn't have to write out as interesting notes for.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? We were invested enough in Amphibia, specifically Season 3, because Season 3 is the end,
yes.
That I had notes on every episode.
Yeah. And also, this is the season where we joined Amphibia when Season 3 had just premiered.
No, I joined it when Season 2 had just ended.
Okay. Yeah. So we had the initial review episode when Season 3 had started, and that's when I got introduced to it. We had like 5 episodes of Season 3, and then another 5, and then a big old hiatus, and then the rest of Season 3.
Yeah, Season 3 was fucking weird.
Yes.
But I also think that pointing to Season 3 of Amphibia is a great example of what the Owl House Season 3 would have been if they didn't decide to cut it.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw snippets of it in the new opening.
Yep.
And there's some very obvious parallels between the two shows in Season 3. They both end up
in the human world,
in the human realm, with some fantastical otherworld characters just trying to live some slice of life daily life. There could have been some slice of life episodes. There could have been some plot episodes of how to get back again.
Oh, the beach episode we missed out on.
Yeah.
Curse you, homophobes! Not necessarily to blame this time, but fuck it, I'm blaming them anyway.
Yeah, we got Morning Mark to fill in some of the blanks, like the making the 5-minute presentation on Bi Pride.
Yeah, by the way, if you like the Owl House and you want some fluffy comics, Morning Mark is great, except he does like to sprinkle in some fuck you ones in, which just hurt the soul.
Yeah.
But to avoid spoilers, Rick, what about you? What do you think the best nonsense retrospective was this year?
Yeah, mine was the Owl House Season 2 retro.
There you go.
Yeah. The reason that I gave it to that was because it was a time capsule into the limbo. We both adored the show. We were bittersweet excited to see the final 3 episodes. One of them is now out. One of them is about to come out.
Well, you say that, like, end of January, isn't it?
Yes.
Well, it's only a month away, I guess.
Yeah, it's a month and change. So, yeah, it's about to come out. Yeah, when we made this, it was in the limbo between the 2 seasons. This was all we had at the time. And there were a lot of hopes and dreams. Many of them have been addressed, apart from the obvious of, it's not been uncancelled. It's they're still having to wrap up and all that.
The thing that hurts the most is you couldn't have given them a final season instead of this free movie bullshit.
Yeah, especially after when the first of the 3 released, the executives were like, trending on Twitter. Anyone can trend on Twitter, and then realized, the episode that we released for free on the Disney YouTube channel has more views than almost any anything that we've ever released on the Disney YouTube channel, and that's just from international fans who don't have Disney Channel in America.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why this show got pirated a fuck ton, and same with Amphibia is the international release for it sucks.
Yes. When season 3 of Amphibia came out, we basically didn't get it for a long ass time.
So much that Matt Braley himself took to Twitter and said, he didn't say pirate his show, but he said, hey guys, when it does release on Disney Plus, you've got to go and watch it on Disney Plus, because that's how we get statistics, and that will give other people who have shows like this a chance. Hint, hint.
Yes. It was kind of like a roundabout tacit approval of, yeah, we know that you need to go to other sources to find it, but yeah, please do give us the numbers.
By the way,
I think
it's not just their animation where they fucking do this with, because when The Mandalorian first came out, which this was a bit of a different issue because Disney Plus didn't exist in other countries when Mandalorian came out, or it didn't exist in the UK anyway, so Mandalorian was coming out in the US and we had to wait like half a year for it.
Yes.
But I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about specifically merchandising, which is meant to be Disney's big fucking cash flow. They just didn't merchandise Mandalorian, so much so that when Jon Favreau did an interview, he was like, yeah, I saw this merchandise appear on Etsy and stuff like that, and it was cool. And I went to Disney and said, why the fuck aren't we doing that?
Yeah.
Except he worded it much more eloquently than I did.
I understand to a small degree that the child was something they wanted to keep secret until episode 1 was out. And they kind of wanted to keep it secret because of other territories that weren't getting the Day Zero Disney Plus release, because, you know, they didn't have Disney Plus. The thing that also bugged me about that is that we still had to wait week by week, even though it was already in the universe.
Oh, yeah, that's why I didn't buy Disney Plus until Mandalorian was finished out.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't think I bought Disney Plus at all until Winter Soldier.
Yeah, fair enough.
Because I was like, well, why the fuck should I pay for it if I can't? It exists, it's out. Why the fuck can't I watch it? Oh, because Disney doesn't want you to fucking use your free month to watch just a Mandalorian and fuck off.
Yeah, they have to make it 6 weeks.
But it's like you're gonna lose those paying customers anyway, so why do you give... all you're doing is making more people pirate your shit, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, you're making the ones that want to be honest only stay for 2 months rather than only staying for 1 month and then cancel with a bad taste in their mouth as well.
Yeah. What are we talking about?
Owl House, Amphibia, etc. The next one is the best nonsense review that we did.
This was another one where I had to think long and hard, and I think I've picked a fair one. We didn't expect to do this as a review, Rick. I just kind of floated it by you at one point, and you went, yeah, fuck it, that looks fun. And the movie was fun. The episode turned out great. I'm going to give it to episode 67. It's definitely cocaine, aka the Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers movie that came out this year.
Yes, that was a good one.
I don't think I expected to enjoy it as much as I did. I thought at best I'd get a nostalgia boner, which trust me, I got, but it was also just a fun movie. Yeah,
we also watched it pretty close to release as well. If we hadn't have picked to do it for a review, I probably would have watched it on my own in bed and had less of a fun time just because I wouldn't have had someone to react with.
Yeah, man. I don't think I would have watched this on my own.
I think this is one of those movies that does get a big benefit from reactions.
Yeah, like you were spoiled on one of the surprise funnies, but I sure as shit wasn't, so
yeah.
That reaction to Ugly Sonic, I think, was probably the purest we're ever going to get on the channel.
That was a good one.
And
I don't think anyone expected it to be good either, and then it was great.
I mean, I think one of the things that put me off at the beginning was the fact that one of them's still 2D and one of them's 3D, but hey, that was a big plot point, actually.
Yeah, totally.
And some of the references and gags were great. Like, I just remember near the end of the film where we were both sort of just watching, and I had a little niggle in my mind when I saw the feet of the two people that Chip and Dale had gone under the desk of, and then when they came out, it's Skeletor having a casual chat with He-Man, and I was like, oh yeah, nostalgia.
Yeah. And the Gen 4 My Little Ponies just in the background at one point, just charging through.
Yeah.
Like they seem to have spared no expense with getting as many crossovers as they could, even if it was for like a split-second gag.
Yeah, man. And it was all fun. Like, they were mostly just harmless visuals, so I can't imagine many people had issues with lending them to fucking Disney, of all people.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely think that was our best episode of the Nonsense Review, at least. And I have to turn the question back on you, Rick.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Paranormal Park. I think this contended with Q-Force in terms of one that was both a good review and a good episode to watch. The reason I give it to Paranormal Park over Q-Force is because the downsides of Q-Force, as in how the commentary got a little bit real sometimes, was that much more somber. Paranormal Park was a much more optimistic and quirky opening, and it entered both of our clean plate clubs for that season at least.
I do think that you might be misremembering it a little bit, because we had the overhanging story thread that we didn't get answered in the first episode of why Barney wanted to escape his house.
Yeah, so we didn't know that, and it's basically revealed very early on in episode 2.
We didn't know the reason, but we knew he didn't want to go back home.
Yeah.
Which, considering I didn't realise that Barney was trans at the beginning, but I knew the show was gay as fuck.
Yeah.
So
it was marketed as LGBTQIA+ positive.
But I assumed that he didn't want to go back home because he was gay. I mean, I guess he is gay as well, but you know.
Yep.
I assumed it was just, you're not going to be gay in my house, get out. But no, it was actually kind of worse.
Mm-hmm. And it's like they reveal later on that it's not as much that as the family not sticking up for him in front of the grandma, who's really, really stuck in her ways.
I mean, I think it's either episode 2 or episode 3 where Barney says, why can't you go back to being XYZ to his dog, because his dog's been possessed and can talk now. And the dog says, you sound just like, I can't remember the...
Meemaw.
Yeah, Meemaw. And Barney doesn't get it, and then he does get it by the end of the episode, and it's like, oh, fuck me, that's... Ooh.
Yeah, I think it's in season 2 when he sits
don't
down
spoil
in the
it.
diner with... Okay.
I haven't watched season 2 yet, bro.
Yep, fair enough. Yeah, so we're now going to get into the honourable mentions. Some of these are mirroring our usual format, where you've got the good, the not so good, and then the MVPs. We're going to do, since we've had our favourites, we're going to go to the honourable mentions. Some of these are not quite the best questions. Some of them are downsiders. Some of them are actually pretty good ones. So we're going to start with the most pleasantly surprised.
Oh, I'm a fucking idiot, Rick.
Oh?
I thought honourable mentions was its own question, so I've got a list of like 4 episodes that didn't quite make it to the top.
Okay, so you can do those if you like.
Oh fuck!
I've got a little thing for year 1 highlights later on, but
I've got something for year 1 highlights as well, because I sent you a list so we didn't have the same talking points. But yeah, I had honourable mentions because it didn't look like a header; it just looked like honourable mentions, as in, have you got honourable mentions?
Oh yeah, my bad. I made a mistake.
Well, because I went through the trouble of finding my honourable mentions, I'm gonna fucking tell them.
Yeah.
Honourable mentions for Nonsense Review number 93, which was incredibly recent. Winter Wish Day. It was not fun to record by any stretch of the imagination, but I feel like it was a strong episode.
Okay.
At least of the review. I also give an honourable mention to review number 65, Down with Thatcher, in brackets, also potato aliens.
Just for the title on its own, yeah.
Well, the title was great, but also, it was during our space month. It was Solar Opposites, and
yes.
Your description of Rick and Morty, but not as Rick and Morty, was a pretty good one. And I don't know. I think I still prefer Rick and Morty, or more the good Rick and Morty episodes. I definitely prefer, but this is a pretty
season
fun
1
thing
and 2.
on its own.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it took a little while to find its feet, but they also showed some of the good stuff in episode 1. Like they showed the setup to the wall, which is something that's like a common thread throughout the rest of all the other seasons.
Well, so far, I've only watched the first 2 seasons because the 3rd season came out and I kind of fell off. But
third season I believe came out while I was in Australia.
Yeah, that would track. But the first 2 seasons, the second to last episode of each season was literally just, here's what's going on inside the wall, and only the wall. And they do the best thing ever, which, as you said during the podcast in question, it was a Hulu. It's like fucking Megamind. Hulu.
Hello.
But yeah, it was originally on Hulu, so it would have had these episode descriptions before. And both times they go into the wall, it's like so and so finds a bear, and they befriend a bear, and that does happen in the background to the wall because you can see out the glass things, but it does not actually adequately explain what's going on the episode, and it's great. It's some excellent deception.
Yeah, like we know there's going to be a wall episode from this point on going going forward every season, and yeah, it's completely obfuscated and for good reason.
Yeah. As for retrospectives, I also have 2 honourable mentions for that. The first being episode number 43, our FF12 retro, because out of all the Final Fantasies with retrospective, I wasn't expecting to have fun with the FF12 one.
To wit, we're skipping 13.
Oh, yeah. Well, we kind of already have, because we've done Endwalker.
Yeah, we did Endwalker when it was new. Like, we did Endwalker before we did 12.
Yeah. It was I believe the first time we did the long form of retro.
I believe so. It might have been last of the old or first of the new.
It was before we started doing our faces, but yeah, it was definitely the first one we did that was over an hour, because we just kept talking and talking. I also made you edit it, which was a mistake.
Yep.
But yeah, the last honourable mention for retrospectives is another recent one, retrospective number 57, the Smash Bros. Ultimate Fantasy DLC, because fuck me, was that a fun episode to prep and record.
It was, yeah. I wasn't expecting it to go on as long as it did, and that's to its absolute credit. Like, we were able to riff off each other really well on that one.
Yeah, it was great.
And I think we made up 2 very good rosters for our Dream DLC.
Yeah. Like, the only point of contention we had was you trying to slip Artoria in from fucking Fate, because I was not letting that slide. But at the same time, you're absolutely correct. If Artoria ever got into Smash, oh, the backlash and the bitch fits from the nerds.
Yeah, it would just be delicious. Num 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 num.
But I do think Fate was it might have technically been a visual novel first. It was either a visual novel or a light novel. If it was a visual novel, it can technically get in, but...
Yeah, I knew the visual novel came before pretty much anything else that I've consumed. I have a Fate manga that's very definitely based off the anime, which is very definitely based off the visual novel.
Which, again, I don't know if the light novel came first or second.
Yeah.
By the way, for those of you who aren't weeb enough, light novels are literally just fucking books, but about anime, and I don't know why they've got their own name.
Because they're thin.
Yeah, but in which case, that's just a fucking book, isn't it? It's not a novel.
Yeah, it's just a short book.
You know, bear in mind, novels are like 50k plus words, so, you know, a book being less than 50k doesn't necessarily mean it's a short story, you know?
Yeah, I guess the difference is book can mean anything. It can mean like a picture book or a colouring book or whatever, so they're specifying that it is a storybook.
Do you know what I think it might be, thinking on it? Because, but depending on what alphabet they use, a light novel could actually be incredibly thin while also still being technically over like 50k words in English, but it wouldn't be 50k words in Japanese, would it?
Right, okay, yeah, because like one kanji can be like a 6-word phrase.
Yeah, exactly, that's what I'm thinking. Maybe that's why they're called night novels. I still don't think they need their own fucking word for it, but it would make sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, that does it for my honourable mentions. Apologies, I misread that. I really did.
Yeah, my bad. So, we're going to go into the most pleasantly surprised.
Well, my most pleasantly surprised has been mentioned multiple times by you. Dead End Paranormal Park.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting to enjoy this, not because I disliked the art style or anything, it looked interesting, but because it was advertised as LGBT friendly. My brain instantly goes, I hope it's not one of these shows that's just gay for the sake of gay.
Yeah, and it's not.
Oh, no, far from it. There's nothing wrong with shows that are gay for the sake of gay, as long as they're transparent about it. But, you know, if you watch something just because it's gay, do you really care about the content? I don't know. I'm trying to sound not like a dick here, but, you know, there's some content. Like, it isn't just gay stuff. It's like, sport. It's the fucking David Mitchell bit of, football. Who will win the football? But instead it's gay. Who will be the gay?
Yeah. Spot the representation.
Yeah. Which I think everyone can agree sucks.
Yeah, it dilutes the media that it's injected into unnaturally.
Yeah. But yeah, I enjoyed the fuck out of Dead End Paranormal Park. I actually ended up watching season 1 before you did, and then season 2 came out, and you binged all the way to the end of season 2. So now you've leapfrogged me because I need to set aside a day to binge.
Yeah. Season 2's a good one.
But yeah, what about you, Rick? What were you most pleasantly surprised by?
It was the new DuckTales.
Ooh.
Yeah. I wasn't expecting that the ancient and modern formula would give another crown to the modern take. Because DuckTales Basic, like the 80s, 90s one, is like a bastion of nostalgia, and those are very difficult to overcome. But I think we did, in the fairest way possible, evaluate the two against each other, and David Tennant's Scrooge is a very fun take on Scrooge.
Yeah, it was a decent casting. I will say this, I might have brought it up in the episode, I might not have, but when I used to go visit my nan during the last year and a half or so, she'd be like, oh, is there anything you want to watch? And I'm like, I don't watch TV. But in order to avoid watching Judge fucking Rinder, because as sassy as that man is, I fucking hate that show, I was like, fuck it, Disney Channel. Oh, DuckTales, the new DuckTales. I don't know anything about the show, but it's animated well. Oh, David Tennant's okay. Oh, we had some luck with the Danger Mouse episode. Yeah, let's do another one. Let's do another old versus new. Rick, do you want to do DuckTales? Yeah!
Yeah. I had stayed as far away as I could from the new DuckTales, partly because I knew that this was going to be a thing more recently, but before that it was a case of I had a bit of nostalgia. It turns out the most nostalgia I had was for Tailspin and not DuckTales.
That's fair.
Because I was like, 5.
Dude, do you know how much willpower it's taken not to go ooh every time you say DuckTales? Oh.
Yeah, even if you've not watched DuckTales a lot, then the ooh is still in your head, yeah. But yeah, next one is the most anticipated and let down.
This one was very easy for me, Rick, because it's a show of a beloved franchise which I've never seen, despite being hyped up as an awesome crossover episode, and that is, of course, Power Rangers Forever Red.
Yeah.
I was excited to finally watch this almost mythical episode, and it was a bit shit, to be honest.
Yeah, and it's just the current Ranger of the series beating Serpentera, which was meant to be the ultimate Death Star Zord of Doom with a bike.
And
they don't even bring Megazord in and have Megazord struggling. It's just, he just kills it with a bike.
It's one of those where it was very disappointing, so much so that even the title of the episode is Power Rangers Forever Red, brackets, is a bit shit.
Yeah.
To be fair, I believe we also pulled this episode out of our arse because we were umming and ahhing on the day of, which we don't do very often, what to record, because we didn't want to... I think I was a bit bothered on the day because of something, so I was like, I really don't want to do a long episode. Could we do something short? And,
yes.
Yeah, we ended up doing this, and yeah, it was a bit shit, and now I feel sad because I'm thinking of fucking Jason David Frank.
Yeah.
This episode is now melancholy for me.
Absolutely. Because he did show up as the Zeo Red Ranger in that, even though he's been other Rangers.
Well, yeah, but if you're going to be in Forever Red, you've got to be your red version, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we might have given him our MVP for this episode just because he was the only one who looked like he gave a shit.
Yeah, I think so.
I can't remember. We might also have shit on him because he didn't give a shit. It's hard to remember. It's one or the other.
Fucked if I'm going to go back and watch the entire episode again just to find out what our opinion was.
We definitely had words about Jason David Frank. I think they were kind, but they might not have been. It's hard to think of Jason David Frank as not giving a shit about the character because it's always felt like he's given a fuck about his Power Rangers work.
Yeah, like even going back to the olden days, he's one that consistently not only liked the character but like fought to be included still.
Yeah, I get you. But yeah, what about you, Rick? What was your most anticipated and let down?
It was Farzar. I was hoping for like a dark comedy She-Ra, and we ended up with a cringe comedy stoner version of Futurama, and not in a good way.
Which is very odd for me to hear from you because you've defended it like 2 episodes ago.
Oh yeah. So the episode that we reviewed was a weak episode. It was not that great of an introduction, but it seems to find its feet quite a lot. And I was going to say that Paradise PD has the angle of like social commentary, and this was the chance to be its own thing, and yet they just chose not to. If like I just wish the show was more like its opening credits.
Okay.
And yeah, I did finally watch the whole thing. It does find its feet in my opinion, but it kind of Netflix-itis all the way down.
Well, it's one of those where I can't share your opinion of it being the most anticipated and let down because I've been very vocal every time it comes up. This might be the 5th time I'm saying this of I thought it was going to be shit just looking at it.
Yeah, fair enough.
I think we did it because it was part of our Space Month, wasn't it?
I think it was, yeah.
Should have done Return of the Jedi instead.
Shoulda. Well, that's in the bank for the future. We got Return of the Jedi, we got the prequels, and we got the sequels to do at some point.
I will be fucking livid if we end up having to do the sequels for this podcast.
Well, I think we've only done one movie a year, haven't we, so far? We did A New Hope last year. We did Empire Strikes Back this year. So it's going to be Return of the Jedi next year.
Yeah. Oh shit, we're not in next year yet, are we?
No.
Feels like January. What does January feel like? Fuck if I know, but it feels like it.
We've not even had Christmas yet.
Yeah, I know, man. This comes out 2 days before Christmas. Aren't you guys lucky for our last-minute Christmas gift to y'all?
Yeah. The next one is the biggest stumbling block, i.e. what would you change about a particular episode?
Well, I've got two for this. The first one's kind of cheating because it wasn't this year. It was last year. I'd go back in time and make sure I selected the correct mic for the It's Vaguely Asian extra credit episode.
Oh, yes. It still has no viewers. We're fine.
Yeah, I know, but I believe it's gotten 1 or 2 listens on Anchor, but it's like my half of the audio for that is completely turd. I stopped recording but in order to listen back to the audio, and it was just sounded like I was underwater. It was crackly, it was horrible, and I went, Rick, I don't know why it's exported like this. And then I went back into Audacity and saw that the Yeti was not selected.
Yep. And thankfully you don't have to use the word Yeti out in the wild very often.
Yeah, I know. For those of you who aren't aware, I can't say the word Yeti anymore normally because of fucking... I've forgotten his name, but he says it's so weird. There's a wrestler called the Yeti who ain't a fucking Yeti, he's a mummy. And when he comes out, the guy on commentary just goes, "It's the Yeti!" And fucking hell, it's one of those WCW clips everyone should watch.
Yep.
He then comes out to the ring incredibly slowly and stumbling and non-threatening at all, wraps his arms around Hulk Hogan and bums him.
Yep, yeah, he does.
But yeah, on the off chance that's not allowed because it was technically year one, the thing...
I'm allowing year ones for this because I didn't think there were any really this year.
Okay, fair enough, in which case I'll keep my other one a secret and you'll just have to guess as to what I hated.
Oh, you can say it. I've got a couple on this, but yeah, go ahead.
The one for this year would have been, I would have wanted more prep time for when you pissed off to Australia.
Oh, yes.
We had 5 episodes that we had to record in advance, and because we had to record 5 episodes, if we doubled up on every day from when we learned that was happening, those would have been long-ass recording sessions. So instead, we designated a 3rd day to record additional episodes on, and that's why we had episodes that were sub 15 minutes, which I specified in messages to Rick. We are not doing anything longer than 15 minutes for the episodes I have to edit later. But yeah, that's what I'd change.
If I'd have known for a fact that I was going a long time in advance, we would have been able to do things a long time in advance.
Yeah, no, I get you. But, this is stuff that we would change, and this is definitely one thing I would change, because while I'm not disappointed or let down by the quality of our work on those episodes, it would have been better to have a better theme than cartoons we could find that are less than 15 minutes long.
Sure.
But yeah, what about you? What do you think the biggest stumbling block was?
Yeah, the early days, the first thing that I think we mentioned was a long time ago, is that I wasn't ready to introduce myself in the first episode.
That was
something I did consider.
Still to this day, one of the funniest things, because unlike you, I was a little bit more prepared than not at all to record audio because I'd done Let's Plays. So
yes, you have.
I went roaring in and like, yeah, I'm Devon, this is what we're doing, this is my co-host, and I think what I said, it might have been partly my fault, because instead of saying Rick, I went, what do you want to be called? But I did that on air instead of beforehand, so you were like, I'm Rick, Asterion, some people know me as blah blah.
Yeah, it was fucking daft.
It was endearing.
One thing I would delete completely is the one time I aired Dirty Laundry because I was real bitter with personal life, and I just wish I'd have said nothing.
I don't even know what you're referring to.
Oh, it was one time I'd had a real bad weekend with in personal times, and I had a really bitter and dour opening segment to the review, and the review could have done without it. The other thing is I wish we'd have foreseen how bad we'd feel about mocking fanfiction before we actually did it. It gave us the good reading of Cold Steel the Hedgehog.
Oh, that had nothing to do with fanfiction, that one. We did a bunch of fanfiction piss takes, but the Cold Steel thing was a natural thing that we just remembered.
Yeah, so Cold Steel was a fun one because it was always intended to be a piss take lampoon, but some of the fanfiction, it could have been read as being, us being mean. It wasn't intended to be. Yeah, but with the reason that we stopped was because we thought it could have been interpreted that way.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? We stopped because of that, but also at the end of every single reading, I think we only did it like twice, maybe 3 times, because we very quickly went, this isn't cool. We might get big one day and it might hurt people's feelings. We have not gotten big and we have hurt no feelings. But, we did put the caveat of, we're just having a bit of fun, we're not being serious, and then I think it was either you or me, one of us, well, it had to be, that there's only 2 of us that work on the show. We had a conversation off podcast, and I think the crux of it was, first of all, people are going out their way to create content, and you don't want to kick someone who's sharing their art, as it were. But beyond that, fan fiction could also be people who are 12 or 13 writing for the first time, and they might hear two random strangers from across the globe taking the piss out of their synopsis.
Yeah, some over 20s bullying children from afar.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't have been 30 at the time, would I?
Yeah.
We're old.
Next one is formats that have been disappointing.
I put NA for this because the only format we had that was disappointing was After Dark, but we brought that back and salvaged it.
Yeah. So we have one unaired episode. Only one, which is actually pretty good going, that we recorded and thought, nah, this was so shit. It's going in the vault, never coming out.
I didn't even edit this. I think we might have made vague allusions to this before, but the second we stopped pressing record, my reaction was, fucking, what was that? I'm not editing that, Rick. It was shit.
Yep.
And I don't know if we've ever actually described how After Dark initially worked. Obviously, we've actually aired After Darks now. It was
with the Monster Manual Smash Pass.
Yeah, which we should probably bring back at some point, but I don't know if we do Monster. I really want to do the Pokedex. But yeah, anyway, sorry, I digress. The original idea was me, Rick, and Chris, who has been a guest on the podcast before, were shooting the shit while just browsing Steam, and we've stumbled upon some really bad porn games, and we were just reading out the descriptions while pissing ourselves laughing. And I said to Rick after Chris buggered off, hey, why don't we do a podcast where we just do that? And Rick was like, yeah sure, fuck it, because we were experimenting with formats at the time, because we had like a string of a bunch of episodes for the extra credit when it was first new, and obviously ended up birthing Retrospective.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we recorded the episode. The very first thing Rick brought up, I remember this distinctly, was genital jousting, and in my mind I'm like, Rick doesn't get what we're doing here, because I don't think I said this at the time, Rick, but it was essentially that I thought we were going to take literal pornographic games that had really shitty porn synopsises and read them out and have a chuckle and a giggle, but then you started with genital jousting, which by all accounts is actually a fun game.
Yeah, it basically looks like a like Star Wall, where you've got one attacking bit and you've got a thing that you're trying to defend that is somewhere else on your character model.
Oh, it's
genital jousting. It's the arse of your dildo.
I was going to say, it's a cock and balls.
Yeah, it's a dildo with a fanny in its balls.
I always interpreted it as an arsehole.
Yeah, an arsehole or fanny or whatever. Yeah, basically it's a hole in the balls, and if you strike something in the balls with your cockhead, then you win.
But yeah, and then we did a back and forth. I talked about some porn games. Some of them were funny. Neither of us were really laughing, where, when we were having the chat the night before, we were pissing ourselves every 5 minutes, and then it was just, I don't know if the mood was wrong or whatever. Either way, it didn't work. It's never going to see the light of day. That 2-minute long synopsis is the closest you're going to get to hearing any of the content from that episode.
And it's a very good abridged version, and you will have a much better time listening to that than listening to the episode that ended up being half produced.
And I mean, case in point, right? The only game I remember us talking about was genital jousting, because I instantly remember thinking, Rick, don't get it.
Yep.
And again, up until this point in time, I've literally never told Rick that. I thought it, but I never said it, because I'm like, well, I don't want to piss off my recording partner. But yeah, was that your answer or my answer?
That was your answer, yeah.
Was it? Oh, okay. My answer was NA, followed by we scrapped. Oh yeah, we scrapped Dark, but then we brought it back. So yeah, what about you? Formats that have been disappointing.
So I would say the Let's Play series were a bit of a struggle to come up with new material to stay relevant. Like, we had Pokemon, which was something that we do every other week. If we wanted it to be continuous, it would have been every week, but if by the same token, it would have gotten boring very quick. We lost steam quite easily by the fact that I, in particular, am not good at nuzlocking.
I'd never done a nuzlock before.
Yep.
But I knew the basic tenets.
We knew the basic tenets, and but like, I was so bad at it that one of my guys died while grinding to a random crit, and that killed your best tank, for instance.
Oh.
And I think that was the one that we got the furthest in, and it's a case of, it can take hours to get to an early game point, and it's no fun for anyone, pretty much.
If we were doing a basic, normal Pokemon game, it wouldn't have been as annoying. But we had the randomizer on, and not just a randomizer, it was also a story mod, which meant the big roadblock for us, specifically early on, was, the bird gym leader from Johto randomly visiting.
Yeah.
Faulkner, that's his name.
Yeah, Faulkner. Faulkner was a difficult one. I think we managed to get to Brock once.
Brock?
Yeah, I think we got past Faulkner, like, only once, which meant that Brock was the next guy around.
Oh, yeah. Oh, so I'm getting it confused with black and white.
Yeah,
sorry,
well,
those
we
are
did both.
Yeah, no, those are two different ROMs.
Yeah, the black and white ones were the ones where that was the fully randomized one. The Radical Red had its own randomizer that you could choose to implement, which was also fine. Man, we had so many good seeds that would have been fun to play through as just a normal playthrough, and we never made it out of Pewter City.
Well, here's the thing, right? The live streams were doomed to fail, in my opinion, not just because we were having a real annoying time with Pokemon. I think if we tried to both do Nuzlocke at the same time, it would have been, one, confusing, so we had to kind of do a soul link. But the problem with the soul link is, if one of you fucking gets a bad team, that means you both got bad teams.
Yes.
And it's one of those where, on top of that, I didn't like the time commitment we had to do towards it, which means there was quite a few times where we'd start the stream and I'd already be in a bad mood because I have to stream for 2 hours.
Yeah, exactly. It was kind of the tipping point between hobby, which we try and keep it as, and we don't do this as a full-time career. Like,
if we did this as a full-time career, I wouldn't care so much about the time commitment. But
totally.
You got to bear in mind, I've got 3 nights a week free. I was giving up one of them for this. I was giving up another night at the time to raiding in FF14, which I was also not enjoying.
Yeah.
Which I eventually I just went, no, I'm not having fun, so I'm going. And most of the raiding group was like, yeah, that's fine. There was some personal issues with a friend, but those have been sorted, I think. So at the time I was giving up a lot of my evenings, and one of those evenings happened to be for live streaming, which meant I was quite annoyed with my life in general. It doesn't help that Mondays is the retrospective record day normally, which means we'd record in the morning for the retrospective. I'd have about 3 hours free, and then back to fucking recording shit.
And 3 hours is very often not enough to do anything meaningful.
Oh god, no, especially not if I'm like getting the retro edited on that day.
Yes.
So
which also includes my upload time, because with Northern Internet,
yeah,
it's a non-zero amount of time, especially for a retro, which is longer than like 10 minutes.
Yeah, usually over an hour easy.
Yeah.
But conversely, I did enjoy the live streams we did that weren't Pokemon.
Yeah, but even then, I'd say that part of the problem there is it was difficult to stay creative and pick something good every time.
Well, yeah, but the only one of the problems was, Rick, is because I was picking the games we tended to do that were versus each other, I was good at.
Yeah.
Which meant I would often win, and we had the rule in effect that winner chooses the game we do in 2 weeks' time. And I think apart from the time I picked a single-player game like Helltaker, it was just like, oh, cool, I get to pick again. I think there was 1 week where I went, Rick, you pick, because I can't think. And that's when we end up doing like Soul Calibur.
Yeah, which wasn't a bad episode, but
once again, I kicked your butt.
Yeah, because you're better at fighting games than I am.
I don't know. I'm not that good at fighting games, but I'm better than Scrubs. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. I'm very definitely a scrub.
I'm sorry.
I know like 2 moves. It's like backwards Y and B.
But conversely,
forwards
Rick,
X and B.
when we play
X and
Smash
Y.
Bros.
Oh yeah.
But
yeah,
unfortunately, we can't record that for a stream.
No, because none of us have a capture card that works with the Nintendo Switch.
Well, I think mine technically does, but fuck off if you think I'm digging that up.
Man, it would be a real pain in the arse to install it with a laptop now, wouldn't it?
Well, a capture card?
Yeah.
Capture card's an external device, mate.
Oh, okay. I'm thinking back to the olden days when there were actually like PCIe cards that you stuck into your PC.
Okay, but then how would you connect it to your machine to, record the...
Cable.
Yeah, but, okay. The Elgato is literally a cable with a big old chunky thing on it, and the big old chunky thing on it is the thing that, boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
Well,
so in my day, you generally couldn't attach a console to a PC monitor, so you'd probably have to have, say, a TV as well. So you'd have to have like your PC tower, a TV, console, PC monitor, and things would get routed from like console to PC to TV.
You're throwing in a bunch of steps that I don't know why you'd need, so let's move on.
Yeah. Okay. So the last one of these is the stinker.
This one was very obvious and easy.
Yeah.
It's, do you want to say yours? Do you want to say it at the same time, Rick?
Bogdan Boner the Bad Exorcist.
Bogdan Boner the fucking Bad Exorcist. If I remember rightly, the episode ended, and I don't know if I said it on air or off air, but it's like, we need to fucking apologise for this.
Yeah.
It was awful. The episode, I think there was one good joke throughout the entire thing, and I don't know if there was like a culture clash or what. It didn't work for me.
Yeah, like, I put even as much as I wanted Farzar to be She-Ra South Park, this was like, we have South Park at home, and again, not in the good way.
Well, you changed Farzar from fucking She-Ra Futurama, but okay.
Yeah, I changed it to She-Ra South Park or whatever. With South Park in particular, kids can be forgiven for their foibles because they're kids, but in this, like, the series had no redeeming characters.
Well, I don't want to speak for the series because I didn't watch more than episode 1, but episode 1 was not a stellar endorsement.
True, absolutely true. We only saw episode 1 and it made us not want to watch anymore.
Like, the art style was unique in the sense that I'm not used to that sort of look, but then the fact that it didn't have any jokes much above, like, bathroom humour, it's like, you can have one or the other, but not both.
Yeah, it's like, you shoot a guy and he explodes into guts, go. Like, it's very definitely the kind of reason that certain parents wanted early South Park banned was because of the gross out humour, and this was just the gross out humour for an entire episode without any actual gags and fun.
Like, I'm trying to think off the top of my head, the gross out humour that I liked from South Park was Mr. Hanky the Christmas Poo, and the other gross out humour from South Park was just gross out, and I didn't really like.
Yeah. Like, the other one was, like, killing Kenny every episode was a running gag rather than a gross out, even though sometimes you saw, like, rats eating his body or whatever. The gag was that Kenny was dead.
Yeah. There was an episode in season 3, I think it was season 3, where they had the nurse with the conjoined twin on her head.
Yes.
And the thing is like, yeah, they drew that very gross, and so you kind of consider it gross out comedy, but the real joke was the city of South Park, the city, town, whatever, of South Park. Were being so hyper inclusive that it freaked her out.
Yeah.
Like, they wore headbands with footballs on.
That character was like a really, like, nice person, which is uncommon in South Park.
Yeah, but she was also a nurse.
Yeah. If you're a nurse and you're an asshole, then you're a gag character at best.
Like, that episode still had the fucking foreign British kid.
Oh yeah, Pip.
Yeah, was he British or French? I forget.
Yeah, he's British, but he dresses a bit like a French noble.
And they used to call him French, and it'd piss him off, and he'd get super fucking power strength.
Oh yeah, that was the one. Yeah, that was his the one thing that annoyed him.
Yeah,
it was being called French.
Which, to be fair, most Brits probably wouldn't appreciate.
He introduced himself to Damien, the son of the devil, as, "My real name is Philip Pirrip, but everyone calls me Pip because they hate me." And then Damien goes, "Then I too shall call you Pip."
Wow. That's pretty decent.
Yeah. But yeah, now we get to the year 1 highlights. I've not got many of these because, the episode's going to get really long in the tooth otherwise.
Yeah, but it's the last episode of the year.
Yeah. So anything that's not been covered already, but also would apply to year 1. It wasn't a full year, but it might as well have been.
Oh, we started in February, so...
Yeah, it might as well have been, pretty much. So yeah, do you have year 1 highlights?
I do. You should know I do. I sent you a list of them.
Yes.
But yeah, how many highlights have you got, Rick?
I've basically got the one big glowing one.
So do you want to do yours after mine or before mine?
I'll start with it. The big glowing highlight for me is The Owl House. It's possibly the nearest and dearest show to both of our hearts that we've ever touched, and bittersweet at the moment because the ending is coming out as we speak. We want more of it. We consume as much of it as we can, and in fact, it was your recommendation to get me to watch it in the first place, and we ended up doing it as one of the in-hand reviews, wasn't it?
No, I think Amphibia was the in-hand one.
Okay.
I don't remember. One of them was in-hand, one of them we just did.
Yeah. But yeah, so I would say that The Owl House is my absolute number 1 highlight from year 1.
That's fair.
So I'll throw over to you. You've got a few more highlights.
Yeah. I think there's a few things we should point to because they were real defining moments of the podcast. Well, I feel so. Mm-hmm. So let's get into it. This time last year, we did the Xmas Retro, which strayed a bit from our usual retrospective format in that we literally just shot the shit about traditions and fun memories of Christmas times. So yeah, we were still on the 1 hour time limit. So for a bit behind the scenes for you guys before we went into the long form retrospectives, what we like to do, what I insisted upon was I put a timer on my phone for an hour because because even though a lot of episodes would be a lot shorter than an hour after I edited them, it was like, I don't want to edit an episode longer than an hour because I only have so many hours in the week to edit. And back then I did everything manually.
Yes.
Because I didn't know what I was doing. So yeah. Also, side note, I don't know how many times we brought it up, if at all, on the podcast, but we've definitely said it several times off the podcast. Yeah, don't forget, at Christmas time, Square Enix, or Square Soft if you'd like, is directly responsible for one ruined Christmas in my life. Yeah. We've got to do that for the podcast one day, Rick.
Good old spirits within.
Oh, God. Oh, I was so upset. But yeah, another thing I want to point to is we had 2 episodes that essentially kickstarted us recording episodes in hand for rainy days, because I can't remember if you were sick or you suddenly had to go on a trip or something, but yeah, you were away for both one retro and one review, and I didn't want to break the flow of episodes going out, so I recorded 2 episodes solo.
Yeah, wasn't it like Spyro and Crash?
I did a Spyro retrospective because I wasn't going to do both because I was, again, still editing manually, and I did the Vexed by Venom Lego Spider-Man thing for the for the review.
The PlayStation.
No, for the review.
Okay, yeah.
So it was on Netflix at the time. Don't know if it still is. And yeah, that was about the time that Immortals came out. So the Marvel film.
Oh yeah, the Eternals.
Eternals, fuck.
It might as well be the Immortals. Like they try to make it seem like they're immortal.
Yeah, yeah. The other thing we're going to point to is we've had 2 episodes, both in year 1, where we had a guest on the show. I've wanted more guests on the show ever since, but 1, I can't be bothered, and 2, the people I have approached have both gone, nah. So, yeah. The Shaman King and Mighty Morphin Power Rangers episode, we had our guest Chris on. Guest Chris on.
Yeah. Guest Chris on.
It's because I've written in my notes, guest Chris.
Yeah.
So I was like, guest Chris, because I added 2 T's.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of Eternals, actually, the day that we recorded the Bloodborne retro was the day that we were meant to have another guest. We postponed it from the middle of the day when we normally record to the end of the day.
Oh, fuck, yeah.
And it was dragging on, and it got to the point where it was after the point we were meant to finish and we hadn't started yet. People in my house were getting fratchy because they wanted to go to the movies. So we just drew a line under it and recorded angrily.
Yeah, because every time I've tried to get that motherfucker on the podcast, he makes some excuse instead of just saying, I don't want to be on your podcast.
Yeah.
It's really frustrating. I tried to get him on an episode for Final Fantasy XIV because I know he likes Final Fantasy XIV, and while the reason why he didn't want to was very valid, he didn't give it to me until like the upteenth moment.
Yeah. The fluffy reason was that he didn't want us to shit on something that he liked. But like for the overwhelming most part, it was a glowing review of Endwalker.
Yeah, of course we put negatives in. It's a fucking review, but for the most part, we could have been a lot more worse is not good English, but it is what I mean.
Yeah, a lot more worser.
Oi. The other thing I think we need to point to is the very first retro. It came about, I don't know, like quarter of a year after the review. I think we're about 20 episodes behind on the review for the retro. And our very first retro was, of course, She-Ra and the Princesses of Power.
Yes.
The formula has evolved a little bit since then. I've put in brackets mostly editing bollocks. So yeah, we were able to go for longer. So much so that we've had 2 She-Ra themed episodes now.
Yeah.
And we can probably have a third at some point.
Oh, definitely. We can definitely do something else with She-Ra.
Yeah. Last but certainly not least, we have to point to Nonsense Review Episode 1, our first ever episode, and wouldn't you know it, it was Steven Universe Episode 1 and 2, and look at what we're doing now. We've got a whole show that's just us binging Steven Universe, and I was also going to make note of the intro shenanigans of the episode, but you've already poked fun at that, so...
Yeah, like even Episode 2 that we did, was a last-minute swerve into doing something a little bit more light and fluffy, because we were going to do something a bit more dark. I think wasn't it like Sabrina we were going to do? We were going to do something long, and my dad was in the hospital at the time, so my exact words were, can we do something short that I know we'll enjoy? So we did My Little Pony, and then in the afternoon I got the, rather fucked up news. So yeah, glad I didn't have to edit an hour plus podcast. Well, I wouldn't have done. It's as simple as that. Yeah, and for the longest time it was the episode that we had with the most views.
It was, but it also got fucking blocked on YouTube for solid minute because we put the video in.
Yeah. We learnt since then.
Yeah, but okay, the video had no sound, so that's strike one. It had no subtitles, right? We made it super small so you can barely see it, and we flipped it and made it grey.
Yes.
And Hasbro was still like, it's got our content, stop. So it's now, if you go back and watch it, it's got a blurred fucking video.
Yeah.
But yeah. So onto the hypotheticals, I guess.
Yeah, so we're finishing with hypotheticals, the show that you would most want to review.
This one's very obvious. Hopefully you've not also picked it, but because it's definitely coming out in the next year, as soon as it comes out, we are going to fucking watch the first official episode of Has Been Hotel.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
I loved the pilot. It's been a long time coming, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. The only downside is that most of the voice actors have been replaced, but that's just something you have to take in your stride for a full-on production, you know?
Yeah, I'm sure. As long as the content's still there, I can live with it.
Yeah, totally.
But what about you? What do you most want to review?
I said I struggle to think of something without it already being a suggestion. But one that I can't remember that we put down was Infinity Train. And you'll probably be able to find that it is actually on the docket already. But the reason for this is that since it's been cancelled and has finished, the creator is essentially given carte blanche to go out and find it in the wild.
Yeah. But that's because there's also no official way of watching it now, right? Did you already say that?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure. Like, I think it was on Cartoon Network, was it? And then they just don't have it available.
Yeah, because animation's getting shafted a lot lately.
Yeah, which is a massive pain in the arse because there's some really creative animations happening like right now and definitely over the past few years.
Certainly.
And it just really stabs me in the heart that Western animation in particular is getting so shafted by bottom lines and demographic shakeups and all that. But yeah, the next one is a movie that you most want to review.
I cheated super hard with this one. It's something we were meant to do this month, but we ended up not doing it, and then our gimmick fucking fell through anyway because of shenanigans behind the scenes. Super Mario Bros. 1993, the live-action movie.
Yeah.
I super want to review it. We're gonna review it. Who knows how quickly, but it is gonna be seen.
Yeah. Like, if you don't mind doing the long episode early next year, then it can be early next year.
Well, we'll have a talk about that.
Yeah.
But that'll be off the podcast, because sometimes our talks devolve into effing and blinding. They don't really, but it sounds more interesting that way.
Yeah, so sometimes we end up huffing and chuffing.
But what about you? What movie would you most like to review?
The one that I picked was The Black Cauldron. It's the Disney movie that almost killed Disney.
Okay, I'm familiar with the name and I've seen snippets, but I don't think I've ever seen it in its entirety.
Yeah, so I've only ever seen incredibly short clips. This is the one where the main villain is Chernobog, which is meant to be like basically like Big Black Satan.
Yeah, he's in Fantasia.
Yeah. And apparently it wasn't bad, but it didn't market well, and that's what nearly killed Disney in like the 80s.
Damn.
And I want to see how bad it really was.
I mean, for all intents and purposes, it sounds like it wasn't bad. Again, it was just because something is a box office flop doesn't mean it's bad. But animation was incredibly expensive back in the day. So if it bombed, it could kill a studio. It's hard to think of Disney being a studio that could be killed by one bomb, though.
Yeah. It might be that it nearly killed Disney Animation rather than Disney on the whole, because they already had the theme parks by then.
Oh, that makes sense, I suppose.
And I think like the theme parks were already like there at that time. It was their major main income revenue stream.
Yeah, that tracks.
And it was a case of they had the nostalgia they already had, and they could make theme park stuff based on it. But in order to keep it fresh, they needed new content. So they were still making things.
Yeah.
And this was before computer animation, like a long time before.
Well,
so you couldn't even have like computer cell shading.
Well, this is part of why I'm saying that animation is expensive. Like,
totally.
Disney used to cheat all the time. Like, you'd see frames reused all the time from skeletons from other films. Like, you got the dancing scene in Robin Hood being a dancing scene in Jungle Book.
Yes.
But yeah, it is what it is. You have to excuse these workarounds because, much like today, the staff was overpressured to churn out content, and in order to do that, you need to cut corners.
Yeah. So, we're going to get into fantasy guests. Number 1, someone deceased.
This one was the easiest answer ever. Robin Williams.
Yeah, totally. He's one that I already brought up for my necromantic campfire.
Absolutely. But like, the dude's a funny motherfucker. Everyone seems to forget nowadays that he was a stand-up as well as an actor.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
So he'd be able to make funny observations. Plus, come on, man, sitting in a room with Robin Williams for like an hour and a half just shooting the shit.
I'd need a nappy. I'd be pissing myself so much.
But, you know, out of all the celebrities I've ever bothered to take an interest in, he seemed like one of the most genuine in that he did seem to just be, obviously, less so towards the end, but a happy person who wanted to spread joy.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll always remember when Spielberg was making Schindler's List, he'd ring Robin Williams to cheer him up.
Jesus. Yeah, okay.
And it's just really heartwarming that he obliged, you know?
Yeah, no. I'm just saying, like, fuck, that's a really heavy topic.
Yeah.
And, yeah. Man, I'm just sad all of a sudden. Rick, what about you? Fantasy guest, someone deceased.
Based entirely on the fact that I've already brought up Robin Williams for my necromantic barbecue, it's, I'm picking Christopher Lee.
Oh, yeah.
Incredibly interesting person who's lived 100 lives.
Dude, I've seen someone, put out a list of his achievements, and, from going from heavy metal vocalist to, by the way, I jeweled someone to win the hand of a foreign princess.
Yeah.
And it's like, shut the fuck up, and then you dive deeper in it, and yeah, okay. Oh, not to mention his fucking Secret Service bullshit.
Oh, it was something, wasn't it called something like the Gentleman of Mischief or something like that?
Yeah, but it was Secret Service.
Oh yeah, it was Secret Service, but with the guise of being gentlemen. Yeah, he's someone who I didn't appreciate when I was younger, and I wish I had the perspective that I have even 10 years ago.
Well, it's very
how interesting the guy was. Yeah,
it's very odd because being someone who's 30 just, came to his career quite late, and my introduction to his career was, oh, it's Saruman. Oh, he's also Count Dooku. What? I think that was the first instance of my brain going like, how can one man be two people?
Yeah, totally. We had the gag at the time that it felt like all the major franchises were trying to get the last of Christopher Lee.
He lived for another fucking 15 odd years.
Yeah, he did. And every franchise that he was in killed him off, or killed off the character that he was.
Not Willy Wonka.
Oh yeah, he was the dentist father, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was Johnny Depp's dad in the new Willy Wonka.
It's so funny seeing the regular old Christopher Lee in nurse's scrubs in front of Johnny Depp as Willy Wonka, because how the fuck are these two people meant to be related?
Yeah, and he was like a formative thing of, oh yeah, you must never eat candy because it'll turn you into cavities. And Wonka was like, fuck that.
I think
don't they make up by the end of the movie as well? I've not actually seen the Wonka remake.
They imply that they made up because I think little Charlie introduces them again.
Okay.
It's been a minute since I've watched that movie, bro. It wasn't as good as the Gene Wilder one.
No, that was an absolute classic. And the reason that I didn't watch the other one is because I had such high regard for the Gene Wilder one. It was such a formative thing of my early years.
If you can put the mental block of saying this is a different film, don't worry about it, it's a fine experience, but fuck me if you compare the two. Despite the enhanced visuals of the new thing, the old thing is better. Also, there's no freaky fucking canal trip in the new one, which is like, okay, fair enough, I can see why that doesn't exist here, but at the same time, you gotta scar some kids.
Yeah, centipedes on the face is gonna scar any
That's exactly the thing that made me freak out in that fucking sequence. Oh, there's no earthly way to know where we are going.
And then he starts screaming while he's travelling backwards. That also freaked me out as a kid because I had only ever been in cars and sometimes on a train. But when you're on a train, the whole thing is in control. This boat was not. And then when they finished, it was a different fucking boat, I believe.
Yeah.
Stupid. But yeah, my number one guy is Christopher Lee. My fantasy guest is the next fantasy guest is someone who is alive and still technically possible. The chances of this are pretty much zero.
Oh, but absolutely zero.
Who is your living person?
I was tempted to go for a VTuber, right? But while I was thinking of who to put down, I was like, I bet you any fucking money Rick's probably going to pick a VTuber. So I went a different route. I'm going to cheat as fuck because it's technically 3 people, but I don't care. I picked the New Day from WWE.
Alrighty.
That is Kofi Kingston, Xavier Woods, and one Big E, formerly Langston.
Okay.
These guys are fun as fuck. They have their own, appear regularly on their own YouTube channel, Up, Down, Down. It's technically Xavier Woods' channel, but Kofi and Big E used to pop in in often enough. And Xavier Woods loves video games. Kofi and Big E are big fucking nerds. I think they'd fit perfectly for the format.
Are these the guys that showed up as Saiyans one time?
Yeah. And Xavier Woods, when he had his trombone gimmick at one point, at the end of a match, he played the fucking Dragon Zord theme on his trombone. I believe he didn't know how to play the trombone and specifically learned how to do that theme just because he's a big fucking nerd. But they didn't just do the Saiyan thing. One year they came out and they were dressed like Final Fantasy characters. They had a Chocobo food stand and they had horns on their head that look like Chocobo men. I cannot understate how big fucking nerds these are. The only people who are similarly nerdy on screen was Sheamus and Cesaro once did the fusion dance in their entrance, and that's the closest anyone's got since.
Yeah, and also Kenny Omega coming on. It's Sans Undertale!
Oh, fuck me. I love that clip because it's awesome and it's fun, but also because JR is such a grouchy old fucking man on commentary, fucking shit-talking the whole thing. Kenny Omega would be a good pick as well. In fact, the New Day had a Street Fighter battle against Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks at one of the E3s. So, I think the New Day would be more fun on a commentary point of view, and I kind of enjoy their work a little bit more, but by no means am I disrespecting Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks. They'd be fun too. We can't get any of them, so who gives a fuck?
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, let's see if my guess was right, Rick. Who is your fantasy guest?
It's not a VTuber.
Oh, okay.
It's Dana Terrace.
Okay.
Because I would really like to hear from the head brain itself what we actually missed from the Owl House.
So you'd want her on a retrospective rather than a review then?
Yeah, totally.
That's valid.
So yeah, I'd want her as a retrospective interview / shit shooting episode, and yeah,
it's a good thing you're the host of. Sorry, on.
Yeah, she's definitely my number one pick for this because yeah, it's not only the Owl House that she did as well. Like she actually was like head writer for the new DuckTales. Ooh. And that's something that I've also noted down as something that we've enjoyed.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a good thing you're in charge of Retro, because if that ever did come to pass, you'd have to ask all the questions because I'd be sitting in the corner going, I don't want to talk, I'm too nervous.
Yeah. Don't talk, only squee.
I'd have to work on my Hootie impression to occasionally interrupt and then be told that I don't do the Hootie voice as well as her goddamn husband.
Yeah. We could also have Alex Hirsch on as well.
I would want him on only if he could voice Hootie the entire time and be annoying as fuck.
Would you want him as Hootie, or would you want him as King, or would you want him to alternate?
I'd want him to be Hootie because I think Hootie is funnier. Like King is adorable and I love King, but fuck me, Hootie is incredibly funny. He is also equal parts annoying.
Oh yeah, that's part of what makes him funny.
Yeah. But again, like they revealed in the most recent season, season 2, that they didn't even reveal. They reminded us that Hootie's not to be fucked around with.
Oh no.
It's really easy to forget that really early episode where Hootie completely fucked up an entire unit of Empress Coven goons and then forced them to partake in a tea party.
Yep.
Oh, I'm telling you, man, if I get to play D&D as a character again, Warlock with the patron of Hootie.
Hoot.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, the next one is the non-stop review question. Because Steven Universe will at some point finish, what series do you want to replace it with?
This one was pretty easy, but also rather coincidentally relevant to the goings-on in the wide world.
Okay.
I'd want to go with something a bit more old school than Steven Universe. I'd want to do Pokemon, but specifically the Kanto journey.
Yeah, so while there was a lot of filler, it would be a pretty good thing to like buckle down and experience for the first time again, because like when you're watching an anime like that as a kid, you're gonna miss an episode. You're gonna miss 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 episodes. Also, we could also dig up the lost episodes, like the one where
Ash gets a gun put. Yeah, I was gonna say Ash gets a gun in his face. I've seen the edit of that where it zooms in on Brock's emotionless face and it just says "fucking do it."
And the one where James gets giant tits.
I thought that was an edit.
No, it was a banned episode.
How did he? They can't have been real tits. They must have been like dittos or something, right?
Oh no, they were balloons. They were inflatable.
Bullshit!
He pumps them up.
I've seen the fucking image and they look real. There's no way they're balloons.
He pumps them up. That's why they're inflatable.
Bullshit.
Yep.
Why did they ban this episode so kids wouldn't fucking want to dress in drag?
And he's competing with Misty as well, who's remember she's 10.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, at a bikini contest. Like, I think.
Okay, I think it getting
Yeah.
banned for that is more makes more sense than James having tits.
Yeah. But that's what everyone looks at. They look at James having tits and going, oh yeah, maybe that was why it was banned. Sexualizing because I think James at the time was meant to be like 17 or something, so that's also still under the age of consent.
Not in England, it's not.
Well, okay. It's in the consent limbo you can have interpersonal consent, but you can't record it.
Okay, yeah, I get what you're saying, but it's also one of those things where bullshit. They're adults.
Yep. Totally.
But yeah, I think that's what I'd ideally want to do. It's going to be a discussion when we come near the end of Steven Universe, where we're like, oh fuck, Steven Universe is coming to an end. What are we going to do? Like we haven't even fully decided if we're doing Future or not, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, totally.
So yeah, Rick, your turn. What would you want to replace Non-Stop with?
I have 3 answers.
Cheater, but go on.
Yeah, the first one is Star versus the Forces of Evil. This is going to be a similar. Yeah, it's going to be a similar thing of I have seen it all, you have not. We've done the first episode on a review. I remember it very fondly, but I've also not seen it since it aired for the first time. Second one is flipping the script. Gravity Falls. You have seen all, if not most of it. I have seen very little of it, so we'd be able to flip the script of what we've had for Steven, where I've seen it and was able to give a different perspective to you on it.
I've seen about half of season 1.
Okay. And the last one that I picked, I don't know how much of this you've seen, I assume it's probably more than me, is classic Teen Titans.
Oh, goodness. I don't know if I've seen it all, but I used to watch it religiously when it was coming out, so it was one of those but this was before the age of streaming, kids, so...
Yeah, totally. You only get the episode that's on Cartoon Network that moment.
Which means there are some episodes I've watched like 20 times, and a fair few episodes where I've not seen once.
Yep. Remember those time when you get like a week when they decided, oh yeah, we're showing the Terror Saga again this week.
Oh, I fucking hate the Terror Saga. It's better than the fucking Red X Saga.
Yeah, totally.
Oh.
But yeah, like in terms of something a little bit more retro, I think Teen Titans Classic might be a good one to go with. And
more retro than fucking Pokemon Kanto.
They were about the same time, I believe.
Bullshit! Pokemon Kanto was like the 90s. Teen Titans weren't till 2001.
I'm scanning my brain. I don't think we got Pokemon until like 99 anyway, so it's not far off.
Oh, well, okay. Now I've got to Google it. Pokemon release... UK 2022 is not correct. I suppose I've got to put original. It's giving me the fucking date for when Scarlet and Violet are out. 1999 for UK Pokemon cartoon.
Yep.
Teen Titans cartoon UK air. That doesn't give me anything. It says watch Teen Titans Go on Netflix.
That's the opposite of what we want.
Hang on. Oh, 2003, so a solid 4 years.
Yeah, fair enough. I think I've mentioned this before, but when I first saw Teen Titans, I didn't clock that Robin was Robin.
You have said that before. I don't know in what context.
It was so weird. Like, I didn't know that it was meant to be a DC show, because I didn't know that Robin was meant to be, the Batman Robin, because he wasn't next to Batman.
Yeah, I think that's why in the comic books he never really led as Robin. He pretty much became Nightwing by the time he was in charge of the Titans.
Yeah, totally.
Something they play with a lot in Teen Titans the cartoon. In Teen Titans Go, they take the piss out of him becoming Nightwing a few times, which I find incredibly funny.
Yeah. I think they have one of those flash forward episodes where like Starfire goes to the future and sees how the team turns out when she's gone, and the only one who's actually doing well is Nightwing.
Yeah, because Nightwing thrives on being, underdog.
Yeah. Cyborg can't leave Titan's Tower because he's plugged in, and Raven is like White Raven, and she's like partly taken over by but partly victorious against Trigon.
And then you got Beast Boy living in a circus.
Yeah. All because Starfire wasn't there to be the glue that keeps the team together. But yeah, next one. Without limitations, including being absolved of editing, what change would you make to the podcast as it stands?
Yeah, you see, I had to put the caveat of absolved of editing duties specifically for me, because Rick don't edit for shit.
No. Even when I did, it wasn't good.
I had some complaints, but I was also like, this episode needs to go up in 2 days, and fuck if I'm doing it. But yeah, ideally, VTube avatars for the video version of the show.
Yeah, ditto.
Yeah, I bring this up because, probably for the same reason you bring it up, in that early days of the podcast, we were really considering trying to set that up. There was a fair few limitations, both technical and financial.
Yes, totally. absolutely. This question involves a magic snap of fingers. VTuber models are expensive to create. Even if you do it yourself, it takes a lot of time and expertise. And it took me a non-zero amount of time just to make these blob heads.
But to be fair, most of that was procrastination on your part.
Yeah.
Well,
but it was still like a solid evening each one.
I don't think you can consider an evening of work on each drawing to be the equivalent of making a VTube avatar for 2 people.
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. So an evening of work for something so small, I would say, is a large amount of time for very little progress. And compare that to the whole ass model, yeah, it would be like weeks at least.
Like, I get what you're saying, but again, I feel like the only reason it took so long to get the drawings done is because you kept putting it off, not because it was taking a lot of effort. That sounds like I'm putting you down, but I'm really not.
I feel you. I don't feel in any way attacked.
That's what I want to make sure of, because again, the wording seems harsh as I'm saying it, but in my brain, what my intent is not that. Man, we do English good for talkers. But yeah, on that note, I do have a bit of an additional question in that
Sure.
If we did end up somehow acquiring VTube avatars and ended up using them for the show, what would you want yours to be, Rick?
I don't know. I guess I'd match your style, whether it be we just turn the blob heads into things with bodies, or we go with something completely different.
I'd want to do sort of like Hololive does with most of their people, in that sort of animal-esque forms.
Yeah, okay.
But that's also probably been done to death.
Oh, it definitely has, but like that's fine. Like, you tend not to get multiple VTubers doing the same thing at the same time all the time. Like most of them have their own shows, you know.
Yeah, fair enough. That being said,
you tend not to have a pair that do the same thing almost exclusively.
Yeah, okay, I get what you're saying. But yeah, with that note, what type of animal would you sort of want to style your avatar after?
One of my main characters is like a fox guy, so I'll probably do that.
That would fit incredibly well with my go-to mind pick being a boar.
Yeah.
So sort of hairy with tusks.
Tuscan, hairy, boar, orky lad. Yeah.
I don't know if I want to be orky. I think I just want to be more. I know orcs are pigmen in Japan, but
yeah, it's so weird, isn't it?
But no, actual boary, like I kind of like that fucking dude from Demon Slayer.
Fair enough. I've not watched it. But,
I've not watched it either. But there's that dude that just has a head that's a boar head.
So not Bebop and Rocksteady.
I don't fucking know what that is.
It's the minions from Old School Turtles.
Oh, yeah, that would work, I suppose.
Like
but that's a bit too grotesque.
Yeah, there's a rhino and there's like a warthog guy.
I thought you meant that fucking talking moose.
Oh, no, that's Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Okay, but can you see the confusion with the names?
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, I feel it. But yeah, my answer is the same as yours. Get the VTuber models. And last one for today. We've already done the snack review and we have attempted live streaming. What other format would you think you would like to attempt?
I kind of regret putting this question in because there's so many things I want to try.
Right.
This isn't my answer, but I do want to go on a bit of a tangent if you don't mind.
Let's shall.
When I initially approached you for the podcast, I did actually want to do 2 podcasts. I wanted to do a nonsense review, which has expanded to what you see today. I also wanted to do a book club, but specifically,
right.
I don't know if I brought this idea up to you or if I only spoke to Matt about it. But I wanted to do Romance of the Three Kingdoms chapter by chapter.
Yeah.
Because
you brought this up to me. Yeah.
I've got quite a bit of knowledge about the era, both historically and in the context of the book. And I know that you, and by extension Matt, who's the other person I approached, have fuck all knowledge. So I thought it'd be interesting reading chapter by chapter, one with the knowledge already and one with none, and compare notes, and each episode would be a chapter. And Matt said he was interested, but he said it in that way that was like, oh, maybe, which translates to no, but I don't want to say no.
So interested * the American form.
I guess.
When someone says that's an interesting idea, what they mean is it's a terrible idea and I just don't want to entertain it any longer.
Yeah, so I kind of abandoned pursuing Matt. I also kind of figured that it would be difficult to record with Matt anyway because he's got a 9-to-5 job, whereas my job is in the evening, so there'd be very limited crossover time. Yeah,
and it seems to be that people who have 9-to-5s tend to occupy their evenings with other things already a lot of the time.
Well, we won't get into that, but yeah. And then I brought the idea up to you, and while you expressed interest, you kind of weren't interested, and then we ended up moving on to doing both the retrospective and the non-stop, which meant we're doing 3 podcasts, a 4th would be overkill.
Yes.
And Go on.
That would be that was also when we were doing we got the review, retrospective, non-stop, and I think that was also around the time we were starting the game live streams as well.
No, when I asked you, we hadn't even had retro up yet.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. I think the thing that put you off was that you have to do homework every week, because you'd have to read a chapter of the book every week. That's non-negotiable.
Yeah, and the thing is, you couldn't even like preload it because it would. I have a lizard brain. If I read something 3 weeks in advance, I'm gonna forget the intricacies. Like, I'm gonna remember the things that matter, but I'm gonna forget real intricacies. You know, the kind of things that you need to talk about on a week-by-week basis.
Well, again, this is why it would have been important to do homework, because you would have had to have made notes, but proper notes, not the bullshit notes we do for the podcast at the moment. Which, by the way, if we ever do a Patreon, we're definitely releasing as a reward tier.
Yeah.
Look at me thinking we're ever going to do a Patreon. We'll never be that big. But, yeah, and coincidentally, the last time I went out just to have lunch with this friend of ours, Matt, he said, oh, you know that idea you had for the podcast with the Romance of the Three Kingdoms? And I was like, how the fuck do you remember that? Because you did not give a fuck. Turns out someone has now done that, and there is a podcast that exists where they're examining the book chapter by chapter. And I'm like, cool, I don't want to listen to it because I don't want to be depressed. Because it could have been me.
That could have been me.
But it could have been me. I've got two people to back up that I did have that idea. They just, no one, I couldn't have done it solo. It would have just been me going, this is what I think of the book. You know?
Yeah.
But yeah, my actual answer, because again, I'm thinking almost all the time of formats we can use, because the podcast takes up a lot of my free time. Mm-hmm. The thing I want to do most, which is actually kind of realistic, is short form reacts. What do I mean by this? Specifically music reactions.
Right, okay.
The reason I bring this up is I actually already kind of enjoy this format. I'm subscribed to a few YouTubers who, they're literally like, sometimes they're as short as 10 minutes, sometimes they're as long as 20, depending on the song, but they record themselves reacting to music for the first time, and it looks fun to do. I think it would be interesting for us to perhaps, potentially, if we ever had the time, do one a week, where 1 week you show me, you pick a song, we listen, we react. Next week, I pick a song, we listen, we react, so on and so forth. It could be one thing that we do, like, because the format's so short, film like 4 in a day and then not record again for a month. But,
okay,
you know, that's the most realistic idea I've got. There's a lot of ideas I have which I just don't share because I think about it for 5 minutes and go, not realistically doable.
I feel you. Yeah, because I've seen some of these that are, it's like a person who is a professional musician or like a music teacher or whatever is reviewing an OST to like a video game or a movie or whatever, and they're giving the professional angle of critique.
Okay.
But also, because it's a single person doing it, they can just pause it and say, no one does this. This is strange. I like it. And then just going back and playing it again.
Okay, I don't actually like that form of the formula. I don't like professional. I don't like professional people doing it. I'm more interested in. I think the go-to example is one guy titles his video as a hip hop fan listens to metal.
Right.
So people who aren't familiar with the genre giving it a go. That's the type of thing I like, and more in line with the sort of way I'd want to tackle it. Like, I don't like essays about music because I just like listening to music and having fun listening to music, and I like seeing other people have fun listening to music.
Yeah. Like, one I remember very recently is String Player Gamer. He looked at the most recent Pokemon OST. He picked out specifically the Toby Fox tracks, and one of them he just liked it so much he just busted out his violin and started playing along with it.
Yeah, fair.
And I thought that was rather cute, because he's like, one of the things that drew me to him in the early days was that he got recommended to me on YouTube as someone who did Undertale covers. So now it's nice to see him do more things as well.
Yeah, fair enough.
But yeah, my answer to this is the travel show.
What does this mean?
So along the same lines as doing the food review, it would likely be very infrequent. But if ever we took trips, either single or together, like I know we're going to do at least one next year, then we can take notes, compare notes, maybe even insert some live clips, either ones that we film or just take decent photos. The downside of this is that I'm about as photogenic as a toe, so any photos wouldn't be very great, but they could be a decent way to like jog our memories on things that we did. It might not be quite as great as, Idiot Abroad, because we're not as entertaining as Carl Pilkington, but I think it could work as something that we do now and again.
Well, here's the thing, right? Two things. One, I wouldn't describe either of us as photogenic. That's just a fact. Look at any of our thumbnails where we're using our faces. And the other thing I'd say is, honestly, I wouldn't want to do a review format. If we're going to do that, we might as well go all in and just record footage on our phones.
Yeah.
And have it be live things rather than, let's look back and talk about blah, 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 blah.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. It's a different format for the same channel, you know?
Yeah, but the way you were wording it of, write notes and take pictures and stuff like that, it's like, well, save us both a bunch of hassle because I have to fucking edit and just record stuff on the fly.
Yeah, totally.
The only downside is we would not have professional equipment, so it would not look great on our phones, as good as our phone cameras may or may not be.
Yeah. There's always a stumbling block of the technology that you carry in your pocket all the time.
Yep.
But yeah, I think that's pretty much the end of the retrospective review, the review retrospective.
I'm so glad that, at least unedited, we've reached the 2-hour mark.
Yep. Which is twice as long as Christmas last year. So, if you liked the video, you've got the comment section down on YouTube. If you're listening to us via Anchor, or the other audio platforms supplied by Anchor, you've got the email if you want to get in touch with us, which would be reachable at
nonsensereviewuk@gmail.com. There is no it's nonsensereviewuk@gmail.com.
Yep, if you made it this far, as always, you're our favourite people, and it's going to be a goodbye from me.
Yeah, final reminder, no episode next week. We'll see you in the new year.
Bye!